Have you ever been called selfish, not because you did something wrong, but simply because you finally said no? Or maybe you've noticed friends drifting away the moment you stopped being easy to control. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Because when people can't control you, they rarely just walk away. They change strategy. They use subtle mind games, guilt, rumors, twisted words, anything to pull you back under their influence. The Stoics left us a timeless truth. Real power is not found in controlling others. Real power is found in refusing to be controlled. Let me share a story. David was the kind of man who set boundaries at work. His boss couldn't intimidate him. With friends, he wouldn't bend to manipulation. Even in family, he stood firm. You'd think people would admire him for that. But the opposite happened. Colleagues spread rumors. Friends whispered that he was arrogant. Family said he had changed, confused. David went to his mentor, who showed him two horses, one tied to a post, calm and predictable, the other free, but harder to approach. When people can tie you down, they feel safe. The mentor said, but when you're free, they feel uneasy, because they can't control you. And that, my friend, is the truth most of us forget. So stay with me, because in this video, we're uncovering the 10 tactics people use when they can't control you, and how Stoic wisdom helps you rise above them. If you find value in this kind of message, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you won't miss the wisdom that could change the way you see the world. Let's begin with the first tactic people use when they realize they can't control you. Manipulation. Now, manipulation doesn't always come with loud arguments or open demands. In fact, it's often quiet, subtle, hidden in the kind of words that make you second-guess yourself. Maybe you've heard phrases like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me." Or, "Wow, I thought you were different. I thought you cared." That's guilt-tripping. It's not about love, or kindness, or respect. It's about making you feel so guilty that you hand over your freedom just to stop feeling bad. Other times, manipulation comes disguised as flattery. "You're so amazing at this. I don't know what I'd do without you." On the surface, it sounds like praise, but underneath, it's a hook. They're trying to pull you back into a role that serves them. And then there's the helpless victim act. They play weak, powerless, as if the whole world is against them. And you feel obligated to rescue them, even if deep down you know they're fully capable of helping themselves. But here's the truth. Manipulation only works when you react to it. Think of it like a chess game. Every move they make, whether it's guilt, flattery, or victimhood, is designed to force a reaction out of you. They set traps. They expect you to panic. They want you to play their game. The Stoics, though, remind us of something powerful. Lao Tzu once said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." And Epictetus taught, "A wise man does not allow others to dictate his emotions." That's the key. Self-mastery. Let me give you a personal example. I once had someone in my life who was a master at guilt-tripping. Anytime I said no, they would sigh and say, "I thought we were closer than that." At first, it worked. I would feel the guilt creeping in, the urge to explain myself, to prove I wasn't a bad person. But then one day, I stopped. I simply smiled and said, "I know what you're doing." That was it. No defense, No argument, just calm recognition, and the look on their face, shock. They realized the game was over. Because once manipulation is recognized, it loses its power. So how do you protect yourself from manipulation? First, recognize the tactics. When someone's words make you feel guilty, pressured, or overly responsible for their emotions, pause and ask, is this a genuine request? Or is this manipulation? Second, stay calm and firm. Manipulators thrive on emotional reactions. The less you react, the less control they have. And third, refuse to play the game. You don't need to defend yourself, over-explain, or prove anything. A simple, confident no is enough. Remember, your choices are yours. You are not responsible for someone else's emotions. The moment you stop giving in to guilt, flattery, or false helplessness, you take back your freedom. So next time someone tries to manipulate you, pause, breathe, and remember this: the strongest person in the room isn't the one pulling strings, it's the one who refuses to dance. The second tactic people often use when they realize they can't control you is this: they spread lies. Think about it. When someone can't defeat you with truth, they turn to falsehood. Instead of confronting you directly, they whisper stories behind your back, twist your words, and paint a version of you that doesn't even exist. Why? Because if they can't manipulate you, they'll try to damage your reputation. Have you ever been there? You work hard, you live with integrity, and yet suddenly you hear that people are saying things you never said, accusing you of things you never did. It stings, and your first instinct is to defend yourself. Right, to shout from the rooftops. That's not true. But here's the paradox. The more you fight against lies, the more you spread them. It's like someone throwing mud at you. If you scramble to wipe it off in panic, it only smears deeper. But if you stand still, let it dry, and then brush it away calmly, you remain clean. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won." And he was right. Lies only have power if you let them disturb your peace. I remember a season in my own life when a colleague, out of jealousy, began spreading rumors about me. At first, I wanted to fight back, to correct every false detail, but then I realized every word I spoke in defense only gave more attention to their lies. So instead, I chose silence. I kept doing my work. I stayed consistent in how I lived. And you know what? Over time, the truth became obvious. Their lies collapsed under the weight of reality, and people saw them for what they were. So how do you deal with lies? First, don't react emotionally. When you argue, you validate the liar's game. Second, let your character speak louder than your words. Integrity is a language people can't ignore. And third, trust time. Lies may spread fast, but they burn out quickly. Truth may take longer to surface, but when it does, it stuns unshaken. The Stoics would tell us, let your calmness be your victory, because in the end, those who live by lies reveal far more about themselves than they ever reveal about you. So remember this: when false stories rise against you, stand firm. You don't need to chase them, fight them, or fear them. Just keep living with integrity. The truth is your ally, and time is on your side. And eventually, The same people who once believed the lie will look back and realize it was never about you being unworthy. It was about someone else being afraid of your freedom. The third tactic people use when they can't control you is one of the most manipulative of all. They play the victim. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, they flip the script. Suddenly, they're the ones who've been wronged. They act hurt, misunderstood, or even betrayed. And just like that, you go from being the one who stood your ground to being painted as the villain. Have you ever experienced this? You set a boundary. You say no to something that doesn't feel right. And instead of respecting your choice, the other person gasps in shock. I can't believe you would do this to me. Now you're on the defensive, explaining, apologizing, even questioning yourself, all while they soak in sympathy from others. That's the power of victimhood. It's not about truth. It's about control through perception. When they can't control you directly, they'll try to control how others see you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "A wise man does not allow others to dictate his emotions." That's the key. Because when someone plays the victim, they're betting on your emotional response. They want you to feel guilty, frustrated, or ashamed. The moment you react, they win. I once knew someone like this. Whenever they were confronted for crossing a boundary, they would instantly collapse into self-pity. Why are you attacking me? I'm just trying my best. At first, I fell into the trap. I'd comfort them, defend myself, even apologize for things I didn't do. But over time, I noticed a pattern. They weren't seeking fairness, they were seeking control. So one day, I did something different. I didn't argue. I didn't comfort. I simply said, "I hear you," and walked away. And guess what? Their performance lost its power. Because without an audience, a show cannot go on. So how do you handle people who play the victim? First, don't get dragged into their drama. The more you argue, the more you look guilty in their story. Second, let their actions expose them. Over time, patterns reveal themselves, and people start to see the truth. And third, protect your energy. You don't owe endless explanations or defenses. Remember, real victimhood deserves compassion, but fake victimhood, that's a manipulation tactic. And the best way to respond is with calm detachment, because here's the Stoic truth. Lis unravel, masks fall, and character always reveals itself. The person who constantly plays the victim may fool some people for a while, but they can't fool everyone forever. So the next time someone tries to flip the script and make you the villain, pause. Stay calm. Don't give them the performance they're looking for. In the end, the strongest response is not anger. It's silence, clarity, and the quiet confidence of knowing who you truly are. The fourth tactic people use when they can't control you is this. They try to isolate you. When direct manipulation fails, when guilt doesn't work, when lies don't stick, they go after something even deeper, your relationships. They know that if you have strong connections, if you're supported by people who truly know you, you're harder to manipulate. So what do? They plant seeds of doubt. They twist stories. They quietly turn others against you. Have you ever noticed it? Suddenly, friends grow distant. Colleagues act cold. Family members treat you differently, and you can't figure out why. Then you find out someone has been whispering in their ear. Not full-blown lies, but half-truths and subtle suggestions. I don't know if you can really trust them. They've changed, haven't they? It's a calculated tactic, just like predators in the wild separate one animal from the herd before attacking. Manipulators try to cut you off from your support system, because when you feel alone, you're easier to control. But here's the Stoic wisdom. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who improve you, and avoid those who drag you down." And that's the truth. You can't stop people from trying to divide you, but you can choose where to put your energy. I once experienced this firsthand. A colleague who wanted to undermine me didn't confront me directly. Instead, they went to others, hinting that I wasn't reliable. At first, it hurt. I wanted to defend myself to everyone. But then I realized, the more I fought, the more fuel I gave them. So instead, I focused on building real trust with those who mattered. I stayed consistent, stayed true to myself. And over time, the truth surfaced. The people who really knew me stayed, the ones who believed the rumors. They were never truly my people to begin with. So how do you respond when someone tries to isolate you? First, stay calm. Don't panic. Don't rush to prove yourself. Desperation only strengthens their story. Second, nurture your genuine relationships. The people who truly know you won't be fooled for long. And third, let go of those who turn away easily. If someone abandons you at the first whisper, they were never meant to stand with you. Isolation feels painful, but sometimes it reveals who's truly in your corner, and that's a gift. The Stoics would tell us, don't waste energy chasing approval. Focus on surrounding yourself with those who lift you higher, because in the end, real relationships are unshakable, and no rumor can break what is rooted in truth. So the next time someone tries to cut you off, remember, you are never truly alone when you stand with your own integrity. The fifth tactic people use when they can't control you is this. They challenge your confidence. It doesn't look like open hostility. They won't yell at you or demand obedience. Instead, it's subtle, almost gentle little questions, tiny remarks, carefully placed seeds of doubt. Are you sure that's the right choice? That seems risky, don't you think? I mean, if that's what you want to do, at first, you brush it off. But the more they say it, the more you start second-guessing yourself, not because your decision is wrong, but because their constant doubt makes you feel shaky. It's like walking across a sturdy bridge. You know it's strong, but if someone beside you keeps whispering, what if it collapses? Suddenly, every step feels uncertain. The bridge hasn't changed, but your confidence has, and that's exactly what they want. Because the moment you lose trust in yourself, you start leaning on them for validation. And once you need their approval, they have control again. The Stoics taught us a different way. Epictetus said, "A man's worth is not determined by external approval." True confidence doesn't come from someone nodding in agreement. It comes from trusting your own reason, your own experience, your own judgment. I remember a time when someone close to me constantly questioned my choices. Every new idea I had was met with raised eyebrows. "Are you sure? That sounds like it could fail." At first, I defended myself. I explained my reasoning, tried to convince them. I knew what I was doing. But then I realized they weren't seeking truth. They were seeking control. The more I explained, the more ground I lost. So one day, I stopped justifying myself. I simply said, "Yes, I'm sure. No argument. No explanation. Just confidence. And in that moment, the conversation ended, because confidence doesn't need to argue. It simply stands. So, how do you handle people who challenge your confidence? First, trust yourself. If you've made a decision with thought and clarity, don't let someone's doubt shake you. Second, stop over-explaining. The more you defend, the more room you give them to poke holes in your choices. And third, remember this truth. Someone questioning you doesn't mean you're wrong. Their doubt is not your reality. Your confidence is your power. And yes, people will test it, prod it, and try to weaken it. But they can only succeed if you hand them the key. So, the next time someone tries to undermine your confidence, take a breath, stand tall, and remind yourself, true strength is not found in needing their approval. It's found in knowing your own. The sixth tactic people use when they can't control you is one of the oldest tricks in the book. They provoke you emotionally. When manipulation doesn't work, when lies fall flat, when they can't shake your confidence, they push your buttons. They poke. They prod. They say things designed to make you explode. Not because they care about the argument itself, but because they want you to lose control. Have you ever noticed it? Someone insults you, mocks you, or brings up an old mistake out of nowhere. You feel the heat rise in your chest. Your pulse quickens. And before you know it, you're snapping back. And that's exactly what they wanted. Because the moment you lose your temper, they win. Suddenly, you're the unreasonable one. You're the aggressor. And they get to play the calm victim. Think of it like fire and wind. Your emotions are the flame, and they are the gust of air. The harder they blow, the hotter you burn. But here's the secret. If you don't feed the fire, it dies, and so does their power. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy," and he was right. When someone tries to provoke you, the greatest strength is refusing to mirror their weakness. I remember a situation where someone tried this with me. They piled on insult after insult, exaggerating everything they could, just to make me crack. Inside, I could feel my anger boiling, but instead of snapping, I just smiled and said, "Interesting perspective." Nothing more. No defense. No argument. And the look on their face, shock, because I didn't give them the explosion they were counting on. The game ended right there. So how do you handle emotional provocation? First, recognize the trap. Ask yourself, do they actually want a real conversation? Or do they just want me to react? Second, control your response. Take a breath. Pause before speaking, and choose calm over chaos. And third, walk away when needed. Not every battle is worth fighting, and sometimes the strongest move is to refuse to play. Remember, your emotions belong to you. No one has the right to control them unless you hand them over. When you stay calm in the face of provocation, you rob the manipulator of their victory and protect your own peace. The Stoics would tell us, true strength is calmness under fire, because in the end, the strongest person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest, it's the one who refuses to be shaken. So next time someone tries to push your buttons, smile, breathe, let them burn out on their own, and walk away knowing you've already won. The seventh tactic people use when they can't control you is subtle but frustrating. They start copying you. At first, It might even feel flattering. You try something new, and suddenly they're doing it too. You take on a challenge, and they follow. You share an idea, and somehow they claim it as their own. But over time, you realize it's not coincidence. They're not trying to compete with you. They're trying to become you. Why? Because if they can't defeat you, they hope to absorb your success. If they can't lead, they'll mimic your path and pretend it's theirs. But here's the truth. No matter how much they imitate you, they will always be one step behind. Think of it like a shadow and the sun. The shadow moves when the light moves, but it can never shine by itself. That's what copying is, a lifeless imitation of something real. Seneca once said, "Character, not imitation, defines a person. Your true value isn't in your style, your words, or your methods. It's in your essence, your experiences, your perspective, your unique mind, and that can never be duplicated." I remember dealing with someone who copied nearly everything I did. If I took on a new project, they suddenly became interested in the same thing. If I changed my routine, they followed. At first, I felt frustrated, even stolen from. But then I realized the more they copied, the clearer it became that they had nothing of their own. One day, I changed my approach completely, just to test it. And sure enough, they froze, unsure of what to do next. Because when you're always following, you're never leading. So how do you handle people who copy you? First, don't obsess over them. The fact that they're copying you means they're already behind. Second, keep evolving. The more you grow, the harder it becomes for them to keep up. And third, remember that imitation is not flattery, it's insecurity. They copy because they don't trust themselves enough to be original. The Stoics would remind us, your worth is in who you are, not in what others borrow. Authenticity cannot be replicated. So the next time you feel frustrated by someone copying you, let it go. Stay true to yourself. Keep moving forward. And know this: shadows fade, but the light that creates them keeps shining. And that light, my friend, is you. The eighth tactic people use when they can't control you is this: they wait for you to fail. Not everyone who smiles at you is truly cheering for you. Some people don't celebrate your wins. They quietly keep score. They nod politely. They say, "I'm happy for you." But deep down, they're not rooting for your rise. They're waiting for your stumble, because your success threatens them. And if they can't pull you down, they hope life will. Have you ever felt that? You share good news, and instead of excitement, you get a lukewarm, "Oh, that's nice." But the moment something goes wrong, they light up. "See, I knew it wouldn't last." That's when you realize they were never with you. They were just waiting for the fall. It's a harsh truth, but an important one. Not everyone in your circle is in your corner. The Stoic Epictetus said, "Do not waste energy on those who hope for your downfall." And he's right, because focusing on proving them wrong is still giving them power. Your goal isn't to silence their doubts, it's to keep growing. For you, I once had someone in my life who played this role perfectly. Whenever I talked about my goals, they'd respond with a smirk. "We'll see if that works out." And when I faced setbacks, as we all do, they were the first to remind me, "I told you it wasn't going to be easy." At first, I felt crushed. I wanted to prove myself, just to shut them up. But then I realized, Why give them that much importance? My journey is mine. Their doubt is not my truth. So I stopped explaining. I stopped seeking their approval. I kept moving forward. And in time, I succeeded. And you know what? Their silence was louder than any fake applause they had ever given me. So how do you handle those who secretly wait for your failure? First, recognize the signs. If someone only shows up when things go wrong, but disappears when you succeed, that's all you need to know. Second, stop wasting energy on them. Your journey isn't about proving them wrong, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. And third, let success be your answer. Not a loud, bragging kind of success. Just quiet, undeniable growth. Remember, storms come and go, but a deeply rooted tree stands tall. The people waiting for your failure are like the wind, they can make noise, but they can't break you unless you let them. So when others secretly cheer for your downfall, smile. Keep walking. Keep growing. Because the greatest victory is not proving them wrong, it's living fully, freely, and unshaken. The ninth tactic people use when they can't control you is this. They try to devalue you. When their attempts to manipulate, isolate, or provoke you don't work, they turn to a different strategy, tearing down your worth. They spread subtle remarks, little comments meant to chip away at your image in the eyes of others, and eventually, in your own mind. He's not as smart as you think. She's overrated. Anyone could do what she's doing. Yeah, they're doing okay now. But it's nothing special. It's not always direct insults. Sometimes, it's quiet dismissals, spoken just loud enough for others to hear. Their goal isn't to prove you wrong, it's to make you doubt yourself, to make you crave validation again. Because once you start seeking approval, they regain leverage. Have you ever experienced that? You work hard, you achieve something meaningful, and instead of encouragement, you're met with minimizing comments. It's not that big of a deal. Those words sting not because they're true, but because they're designed to shrink your sense of self. But here's the Stoic perspective. Your value does not come from the applause of others. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if what they say is true, then accept it. If it's false, why be troubled? And Seneca wrote, the opinion of others matters less than the integrity of your own soul. I once knew someone who constantly tried to downplay my progress. Whenever I shared something I was proud of, they'd quickly compare it to someone else. That's good. But did you hear what so-and-so achieved? At first, I let it get to me. I started questioning whether my efforts mattered. But then I realized their words said more about their insecurity than my worth. So I shifted my mindset. Instead of seeking their approval, I measured my value by my own growth. Was I better today than I was yesterday? Was I living with integrity, aligned with my values? That became my measure of success. And once I stopped feeding on their validation, their attempts to devalue me fell flat. So how do you respond when someone tries to minimize you? First, don't internalize their words. What they say about you reveals their perspective, not your truth. Second, stop chasing their approval. You don't need their recognition to validate your worth. And third, anchor yourself in self-respect. Let your actions, your principles, and your steady growth define you. Remember, people only try to shrink others when they feel small themselves. Their dismissal is not your problem to fix. It's their wound showing through. The Stoics remind us, true worth is measured by character, not by applause. So the next time someone says, "You're not that special," smile gently, because deep down, you know your value isn't theirs to give, and it certainly isn't theirs to take away. The 10th and final tactic people use when they can't control you is also the most powerful. They try to control you with fear. When manipulation fails, when lies fade, when doubt no longer works, they turn to threats. Fear is their last weapon, because fear can paralyze even the strongest spirit. It might not be obvious at first. It could sound like a warning. If you walk away from this job, you'll never find another one. Or, if you don't do what I say, you'll lose everything: your friends, your family, your security. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's direct. But the goal is always the same: make you so afraid of consequences that you surrender your freedom. Have you ever felt that knot in your stomach when someone suggests your whole world might collapse if you don't obey? Fear creeps in, whispering worst-case scenarios until you're frozen. And that's when they think they've won. But here's the truth. Fear only has power when you believe it. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not in your control, let it pass." The Stoics understood that most of the things we fear are illusions, projections of what might happen, not what actually is. I remember a time when someone tried to control me this way. They said, "If you don't stay, you'll regret it. You'll lose everything you've built." For a moment, I almost gave in, but then I asked myself, is this true? Or is this just fear talking? And I realized it wasn't reality. It was their attempt to bind me with invisible chains. So I stepped forward anyway, and the world didn't collapse. In fact, freedom opened doors I never could have seen if I had stayed afraid. So how do you break free from fear? First, question it. Ask, is this fear based on facts or just threats? Most of the time, it's smoke, not fire. Second, focus on what you can control. You can't control outcomes or other people's actions, but you can control your choices, your courage, and your response. And third, remember that courage grows in action. The more you face fear, the weaker it becomes. The Stoics remind us, true freedom is found on the other side of fear. So when someone tries to intimidate you with what you might lose, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what if I gain instead? What if fear is just a doorway to strength? Because once you stop letting fear dictate your choices, you step into a kind of freedom no one can ever take from you. And that, my friend, is the ultimate victory. And so, my friend, we come back to the wisdom of the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if you are unaffected by what is said, you have already won. Epictetus taught, do not let others decide your emotions. And Seneca advised, associate only with those who lift you higher and avoid those who drag you down. At the heart of it all, true strength is not found in controlling others, it's found in mastering yourself. That's why the greatest response to manipulation, lies, and fear is not anger, not revenge, but calmness, clarity, and the quiet courage to keep walking your own path. Don't play their game. Hold your ground. In the end, time and truth will always reveal everything. If this message spoke to you today, I invite you to join me on this journey. subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell not just to support me, but to remind yourself to keep feeding your mind with wisdom and strength. Leave a comment below, share which tactic you faced, or how Stoic philosophy has helped you stand tall. And if you know someone who needs this encouragement, share this video with them, because when we grow together, we become unshakable.